talk very specific to the resiliency of the infrastructure plus cyber security, like how we incorporate the cyber security during the digital transformation and the challenges that normally PSU face in terms of the migration from legacy to modern, plus to make the infra ready for the future also. So as the topic suggests, we gonna discuss about the challenges in the digital transformation. Like today we plan to migrate from XYZ to ABC level of the IT infrastructure, but can we make sure that the infra will be ready for next, at least for 5-10 years in terms of the capability to handle the AI level computing, plus be resilient or maybe enough for the basic level of the quantum computation also, that maybe we'll heard about in next 2-3 years. So we'll go on and discuss about that, but as the PSUs or maybe the government organization, we normally see the lots of challenges. First one is the robust process for approval and the implementation. Second, the moment we plan for the migration or the digitization of the infrastructure, we see a challenge of the compatibility of the new infra with the existing or the rest of the network or the technologies. Third, during the migration, we see lots of failure also because we never done the requirement analysis properly at the very initial stage, like why we should migrate from X to Y, what sort of precautions we need to take in place so that the migration will never fail, plus the data security also, because normally we see most of the data breaches fail because of the control during the migration, or maybe the moment we onboard a new cloud or maybe any other the instance in the network, we never focus on the basic level of security or the hygiene, and resultant we came to data breaches, data compromise, or maybe leakage also. So we'll discuss around that only. Let's start with the first part of the session. So I'll begin with the Ganeshwar sir. Like as India advanced, oh sorry, I lost. Okay. So as India advanced towards becoming a digital empowered and economically stronger nation, what does resilient infrastructure mean in today's context, and why it is more critical than ever earlier also?
Thank you so much. In fact, earlier the system was not very challenging, but now apart from the climatic problems which we were facing, and we were making our system ready for climatic challenges. Now it has been superimposed by the cyber security challenges.
Correct.
Over and above, we are also facing the supply chain problems, and then again the demand pattern of, I belong to the Power Grid Corporation and electricity sector. The demand pattern of electricity was another challenge, but very recently the supply pattern has given a lot of challenge, and otherwise if we have a very resilient system, it is very difficult to handle, because in the power sector we have a generations installed capacity around 580 gigawatt.
Correct.
Above more than 50% is from RE, where lot of variability is there. There is no inertia in system, especially it is dominated by solar, where there is no at all inertia. Challenges are too much. Until unless we have some resilient system, it will be very difficult. अगर आप पहले कहा जाता था कि गवर्नमेंट को 3 चीज़ें देनी चाहिए, बिजली, पानी और सड़क, otherwise everything comes by its own. But nowadays it has been changed. बिजली से अब वो ट्रांसमिशन हो गया है. अभी इस समय देश को ट्रांसमिशन, पानी और सड़क देने की ज़रूरत है. तो in this perspective, in fact, transmission has become more challenging in electricity sector, and we need a very resilient system which can handle the demand side and generation side, both variabilities, because electricity otherwise cannot be stored. It has to be matched real-time basis with generation and demand, barring some energy storage, battery storage, which is very, very rare, less than a percentage of the overall the system. So India need a very resilient system, very resilient, especially transmission sector and overall infrastructure to grow, because we are planning to become a totally developed country by 2047.
Yeah,
So that is very important in
makes
this
sense.
aspect.
Because most of the PSUs were set it up a decade ago and running on the old IT infrastructure. But again, it is good from another point of view, from a cybersecurity standpoint, because they perform or working in a silo. So that, God forbid, if any attack happens, then the attacker will remain access only to one asset, cannot do pivot or maybe jump from the another network. But from a security and the current, the AI or a security requirement perspective, the assets should talk each other. They should have a capability to integrate with the latest infrastructure, technology like AI, so that we can put more resilient monitoring on that particular asset or the environment. So, in order to that, I'll go to Saurabh for the next question. Like, infrastructure is increasingly becoming interconnected through digital technologies. How can organizations like balance modernization, efficiency, and resilience while managing growing operational complexities?
Thank you very much. So I'll limit my understanding. I mean, I'll limit my overall observation to power sector and more specifically towards distribution.
Right.
So we run the flagship scheme of Government of India, revamped distribution sector scheme. So the emphasis here is putting smart meters on consumers and enhancing the grid infra availability, augmenting the existing infra, putting new infra. What we have realized is in the last couple of years, the grid has changed like never before, and it is happening from both the supply side and the demand side. From the supply side, obviously, because of variable renewable energy, the DRE also, I mean, last year we did something like 8 gigawatts of rooftop solar, another 8 gigawatts in PM KUSUM. So 15, 16 gigawatts of energy, which is injected directly on the distribution level. A lot of this does not have, we don't have eyes on the system thoroughly because generation data is not available. So if I'm a distribution company trying to do my load forecast, I will not be as successful because I don't really know what is happening at my subgrid assets. So these are the challenges. At the same time, technology provides the solution. So we are doing smart meters at an unprecedented rate. We are doing almost 3 million meters every month. And so far we have 60 million meters in the country. This would be covering almost 70-80% of the revenue, I mean maybe 60% of the revenue base of the entire country. That ways we have eyes on the network, we have 3-layer mesh at the feeder level, at the DT level, at the consumer level. Going ahead, because power is being supplied at different times in different geographies, to account for these cost differences, we are going to introduce time of day tariffs increasingly. Some states have already started doing it. So the correct price signals and market signals will go. So this is how our infra, which is, I mean, we should not be wasting infra in the sense when we have power available, our demand should be closer to that time. And that happens when you have the right price and market signals in terms of time of day tariff. When you have consumer meters and when you have this kind of data flowing, you are easily able to update the firmware over the air and you are able to get new tariff designs. So a lot of innovations on the sector which were earlier not happening are possible because the technology layer is there. We also have to be mindful because this kind of data also entails privacy risks, cyber security. So I mean for that we are taking care, we are putting in systems in place. But all in all, I mean, it has been exciting few years. From the supply side, of course, data centers are creating huge load centers at places. Then you have state transport authorities, wherever you have successful bus tenders. Suddenly you have a new load center coming up in a city which might otherwise be, say, 50 megawatt in a particular grid zone, and you suddenly have another 50 megawatts. Similarly, the biggest challenge actually will, on the supply side, will be coming from electric vehicle,
Right.
which is an opportunity for the power sector. In terms of the energy utilized, the power sector will be growing at the expense of the oil sector to a certain degree. However, because of the the kind of load, this is disbursed load. A housing society might have 20 chargers, and that will be greater than the entire sanctioned load of that housing society. So the upstream infra that we have, the TTs or the substations, they are not prepared for this kind of load immediately. We need to augment that. We need to, put more money there. We need to do capex augmentation.
Right.
So these are the challenges, and it is with the use of technology, with simulation, with more digital twins in place that we are able to do better load planning and account for this variability.
Right.
Thank you.
I think as on date we are on a very good stage. Otherwise तो कुछ एसेट तो इतने पुराने हैं कि शायद हैकर भी उसके पासवर्ड भूल गए होंगे. कई बार ऐसा भी मिलता है. Now, Atul ji, coming to you, data is becoming the backbone of modern infrastructure. So how can organizations leverage data-driven insight to improve planning, asset management, operational efficiency, and the service delivery also?
Sure, sure. Great to be here and thanks for this question. See, typically what, and sorry for the bad throat, actually, I'm slightly under the weather. So, see, typically how we see in across the infrastructure, digital infrastructure, data is the key, right? And we typically call it a data-centric approach that we have to see. And that is from both the sides. Like while we are protecting the data, we have to see data throughout its life cycle, where it originated, where it's going and where it's residing, all of those things, which is from the protection point of view. But at the same time, how are we going to leverage the data? Earlier, the question was how much data I have and how much infrastructure I have, right? That was defining how much analytics I can build. But now, with the advent of this Gen AI and all these kind of AI, ML evolution and larger emerging tech evolution, I'll say, that gamut has changed. How much insight you can draw out of that and then implement back to the infrastructure, that something is going to define a lot of things.
Correct.
Now, if you see how this transition happened, so almost 15 years back, the way we used to see cybersecurity was slightly different, or I'll say significantly different, where we used to look at cyber as a check marks based approach, right? We have a checklist and we are tick marking these things are done and we are good to go. Now, precisely on the data point, the leveraging data
Right.
and leveraging the AI ML kind of capabilities, we move towards the real-time management of security. And what is that real-time management of security? This is more like contextual, more real-time. Broadly, if I say it's like orchestrated, more adaptable and more real-time, where you are comprehending a lot of data and making sense out of it, contextualizing it in your context, and then taking some real-time action. So this is kind of a real-time leverage of that data that you have in your organization or a data coming from outside your organization, leveraging it and making your decisions, and which is actually making sure that on a real-time basis you are protecting your infrastructure and your overall organization.
Right.
This is something which is happening now.
Correct.
And now things are changing, and while we talk about this Surakshit Bharat and Viksit Bharat kind of a thing, we have to see what's going to happen, say, few years down the line. And now, moving from that privacy by design, security by design, now we are talking about resiliency by design. And resiliency is transitioning again, significantly leveraging the same thing what you have asked about data, right?
Correct.
We have that data. Now, what has changed? Earlier, my data was coming in from my firewalls, my certain antiviruses, and those kind of tools and technologies I have deployed in my infrastructure. Later on, I started taking inputs from my honeypot kind of a solution, deception solutions. That has also added to my data. Then we got information sharing analysis center kind of thing. That information is flowing from outside as well. Then I got third-party providers who are giving me a lot of data insights. Another layer that got created, which we call it like a attack surface management, where we have organization and capability providers which are going ahead and searching about you, your data, in dark webs and deep webs, and then feeding it back to you, what can go wrong in future, leading to the resiliency concept. Now, question is not whether something can go wrong or not, but now if something goes wrong, how quickly you are bouncing back, and how can you limit the damage? That's only possible if you have, I'll say, security practices in place and all those things are in place, but you are leveraging the data part, that intelligence you are bringing out of the data in a very effective and a real-time basis, which is more coordinated, more comprehensive, multidimensional, and then leveraging it to take your call. How can we make sure that before something goes wrong, I can be protected? Second, if something goes wrong by any chance, given the geopolitical situation, you are seeing like state-sponsored attacks and so many things are there, then how I'm going to limit it? And how can I come back so quickly? You can call it like a real-time, self-healing systems and all of those things. This is all outcome of that leverage of that intelligence coming out of that data. So this is how broadly organizations are using, And we have providers and technology companies, and especially Indian companies like we have Mini Orange, Anirban is sitting over here, which are actually serving not only in Indian context but also the global ecosystem.
Right.
Significantly leveraging that data, building their models and everything, and then going back to the ecosystem.
Yeah.
So I'll stop here.
Yeah, rightly articulated, because we have seen one case around the data resilience also, without taking the name of that organization, they got breached, and then the CTO decided to move from the local data center to the cloud. And unfortunately, they didn't perform the internal due diligence of the data or the compromised environment during the root cause analysis exercise. And ultimately, what happened the moment they have migrated from local to cloud, the threat actor were there in the local environment, they created the exact replica of the environment to the cloud, and the attacker moved from local to cloud. And they got breached again. So this is how, before moving anywhere from A to B or from the legacy IT to the modernization, we should first look into our existing infrastructure, data, or the machines. We should scan everything, we should define, because it is not mandate to take everything from legacy to the modern. Sometimes we need to maybe do a proper isolation, or I can say sanitization, so that only the required part of the local infra or maybe the legacy infra should move to the modernization in terms of the capability or the legacy to modernization exercise, right? So coming to you, Anirban sir, like building future ready infrastructure requires collaboration across government, public sector, enterprises, industries, and the technology partner also like is you. So how can stronger partnership accelerate the India's infrastructure transformation journey in your view?
So first of all, अतुल ने सारे आंसर्स जो मुझे देने थे वो दे ही दिए.
Correct.
रेजिलियंसी क्या होती है, वो सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट पॉइंट था कि अटैक तो होना ही है, कितना जल्दी बाउंस बैक हो सकते हैं उसकी प्रिपेयर्डनेस है कि नहीं. आपने ज्ञानेश्वर सर से पूछा कि बैलेंस मतलब नहीं, आपने आई थिंक सौरभ सर से पूछा था कि सिक्योरिटी को बैलेंस कैसे कर सकते हैं अपन.
Right.
तो बैलेंस कैसे कर सकते हैं वो, मतलब अगर हम पूरा का पूरा प्रॉफिट ऑफ द कंपनी या रेवेन्यू ऑफ द कंपनी साइबर सिक्योरिटी और एआई में लगाएंगे तो वो भी कम पड़ेगा. तो हमें देखना चाहिए कि टॉप थ्रेट वेक्टर्स क्या हैं, किस तरह के अटैक्स आज हो रहे हैं.
Correct.
और उसके लिए कैसे रेजिलिएंट बना सकते हैं.
Exactly.
जिससे कि कम से कम वी आर प्रिपेयर्ड इन फ्रॉम दोज फ्रंट्स जो प्रेवलेंट हैं आजकल. और ज़्यादातर कंपनीज क्या करती हैं कि कंप्लाइंट होने तक के पैसे खर्च करती हैं, कि कंप्लायंस का लॉ ये बना हुआ है. डेटा के बारे में जो आपने क्वेश्चन पूछा तो उससे आप ऐसे तो सारे पॉइंट्स बता दिए उन्होंने. मेरा एक ही पॉइंट था कि डेटा का थोड़ा वी हैव टू लुक एट इट एज एन अपॉर्चुनिटी मोर देन लाइक कंप्लायंस की वजह से हम कर रहे हैं.
Correct.
क्योंकि ज़्यादातर फॉरेन कंपनीज वही कर रही है, डेटा का एज एक अपॉर्चुनिटी ले रखी है उन्होंने. वो डेटा इकट्ठा कर रहे हैं, डेटा से अपने मॉडल्स ट्रेन कर रहे हैं और पता कर रहे हैं हम उस डेटा से करते क्या हैं, और उस तरह के प्रोडक्ट्स और निकाल के बेचने की कोशिश कर रही है.
Correct.
आपका क्वेश्चन क्या था मेरे से?
Government and public sector, how they can
so
work collectively
India is
to enhance
already
it.
fallen a lot behind in investing in the future. अभी गूगल ने इतनी बड़ी कंपनी होने के बावजूद, इतना कैश रिच होने के बावजूद, इतना पैसे होने के बावजूद और पैसा उठा के और इन्वेस्टिंग इन द फ्यूचर कर रहे हैं. और हमारी सारी कंपनीज क्या कर रही हैं, प्रॉफिट मेकिंग में लगी हुई हैं और डिविडेंड पे करी जा रही है.
Correct.
हमने क्यों नहीं इन्वेस्ट किया एआई में, जब हजारों करोड़ों का प्रॉफिट सारे सर्विसेज कंपनीज
तो
करके
सर,
बैठे हुए थे.
हम तो डिजिटाइजेशन की डेफिनेशन भी ऐसे देते हैं कि कुछ पेपर्स रखे हुए हैं उनको स्कैन कर लो, वो डिजिटाइजेशन हो गया. फिर नए डायरेक्टर आते बोलते हैं इनको प्रिंट आउट लेके रख दो, फ्यूचर में रेफरेंस के लिए काम आएंगे.
तो हम लोग क्या कर रहे हैं
तो
अभी,
हम तो digitization
हम लोग
इसको बोल रहे हैं.
अभी मैं सर्वम के एक बोर्ड मेंबर से मिला था, उनका वही व्यू था कि वैसे तो सारे बड़े बड़े यूज केस बिग एलएलएम्स ऑफ द वर्ल्ड आर डूइंग, हम लोग नीश करते हैं.
हम तो सर एआई के जमाने में भी ऑफिस में वाईफाई के पासवर्ड उस पे रखते हैं ना, स्टिकी नोट पे. गेस्ट रूम में वाईफाई के पासवर्ड रखे रहते हैं.
सो हमारे पास अभी कोई ऑप्शन नहीं है अदर देन डूइंग कोलैबोरेशन.
Correct.
जितना
Makes sense,
सब
sir.
कोलैबोरेट करके फुली इन्वेस्टिंग इन द फ्यूचर करेंगे इन एआई एंड साइबर सिक्योरिटी,
Correct.
उतना अपने देश के लिए अच्छा रहेगा. सॉवरेंटी की जो बातें कर रहे थे माय फेलो स्पीकर अ लिटिल व्हाइल अगो, सॉवरेंटी इज अ गोल राइट नाउ. अलग अलग तरह के सॉवरेंटी के डेफिनेशंस हैं. अगर आपने AWS बॉम्बे में डेटा सेंटर में होस्ट कर लिया तो सॉवरेन बन जाता है. अगर आप यहाँ पे भी काफ़ी सारे नाम है जो इंडियन कंपनीज नहीं है, तो वो उनका डेटा अगर उनको इंस्टॉल कर लिया तो सॉवरेन हो गया। ऐसे सॉवरेन नहीं होता है। किसी दिन नायरा एनर्जी का केस हो जाएगा कि गवर्नमेंट बोलेगी माइक्रोसॉफ्ट को कि वो अकाउंट बंद कर दो एंट्रा का,
करेक्ट।
और वही हुआ। और नायरा एनर्जी का तो डबल 2 बार हो गया, एक बार माइक्रोसॉफ्ट ने और एक बार अभी एसएपी ने भी उनको नोटिस भेज दिया कि बंद कर देंगे, क्योंकि ईयू लैब्स ने वो बनाया। तो सॉवरेंटी का गोल अभी तो अचीवेबल नहीं, इतना भी अचीवेबल नहीं है, पर कोलैबोरेशन करेंगे सब मिलके, एजुकेशन सेक्टर, गवर्नमेंट सेक्टर एंड प्राइवेट सेक्टर, तो फिर इन्वेस्टिंग इन द फ्यूचर होगा, खुद का ब्रेन बनेगा, खुद के साइबर सिक्योरिटी प्रोडक्ट्स बनेंगे, तो फुली सॉवरेन की तरफ जाएंगे हम लोग।
इवन अभी तो ऑनबोर्डिंग ऐसे गवर्नमेंट में हमें लगता है कि द एआई केम एंड वी लॉस्ट आवर जॉब्स एक्सेट्रा, बट गवर्नमेंट का हम शायद वो भूल गई कि पहले मिनिस्टर साहब अप्रूव करेंगे, फिर सेक्रेटरीज, एंड देन आएगा, फिर एआई पे एक स्टैम्प भी लगेगा, एंड देन एआई विल कम इन पिक्चर। सो इट विल टेक अ लॉट टाइम, बट अगेन from a security point of view, I'll now run in a reverse order. I request to take less than a minute time to explain your thoughts. So as critical infrastructure become more digital and connected, like how can organization ensure security and resilience are built in from day one rather than putting an addition or a tool on the top of the digital infrastructure?
अभी डे 1 तो बहुत पहले चला गया है, बट इन जनरल बता देता हूँ आपको कि अभी लंदन था तो वहाँ पे सारे के सारे जो ऑयल एंड गैस के थे वो अभी एयर गैप नेटवर्क्स में एमएफए ढूंढ रहे हैं।
Correct.
उतना ही कर लो, एमएफए इतना पॉपुलर हो चुका है, पासवर्डलेस तो करो पहले, एमएफए कर लो, उससे काफ़ी रेजिलियंस बढ़ती है। और शिफ्ट लेफ्ट सिक्योरिटी के बारे में अतुल बोल रहे थे, वो भी बहुत जरूरी है, सिक्योरिटी बाय डिज़ाइन। तो जैसे जैसे आपको थ्रेट्स का पता लगता जा रहा है, वैसा वैसा अपने सिस्टम्स को सिक्योर बनाइए। इतने सारा एआई टूल्स बन रहे हैं, उसको यूज़ करके देखिए कि कैसे वल्नरेबिलिटी रिमूव की जा सकती है, वो सब।
Correct. Atul ji, coming to you, like large infrastructure projects involve multiple contractors, vendors, and the technology partner also. So how can organizations strengthen governance and manage the risk across the ecosystems?
See, so that's something very interesting actually, because many times you will see if a large organization is there, they are managing because they have bandwidth and everything, right? Financial bandwidth, manual bandwidth. But the challenge many times happens because our service providers might not be up to the mark. Many times if it's a very early stage players. See, definitely one thing that we have to do is the contractual obligations that we have to make in place, which is definitely first thing that should come. But that's not the end of the game. As a big organization, we need to make sure that we have some, I'll say, frequent understanding what's happening in the infrastructure. I'm not saying like a regular audit has to happen there, but there should be some provisions, which is more like a TPRM kind of a thing, third-party risk management kind of a thing, where you are understanding what's going on in those organizations. There should be some monitoring facilities that should be available. On top of it, if I say, there should be some, like in case of capital market that has happened actually. See, I think BSE and NSE has come up with the market SOC kind of a thing, which is more like a community facility where smaller players which cannot have their own security operations center or those kind of capabilities can leverage that kind of institutional mechanism which is for the community. This kind of effort should pick up more. Correct. So that that entity which might not have that kind of access can leverage it.
Correct. Makes sense.
The last thing that I'll say here is knowing your data actually, and that is true for the large organization because you'll be collecting a lot of data which is flowing to your third parties and so on and so forth. Knowing your data, because as you said, a lot of files are scanned now, it is a digital, and especially after DPDPA.
कुछ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन तो ऐसे हैं जिनको ये भी नहीं पता कि मेरा कौन सा डेटा कहाँ रिसाइड कर रहा है.
Correct.
तो वो कॉम्प्रोमाइज भी हो गए तो हैकर भी ढूंढेगा.
True. So that assessed ownership, and as you said, file scan, it is digital asset now. Under DPDPA, अगर वहाँ पे there is any personal information is there, that is now under DPDPA. So you need to know what my data, where is my data,
Correct.
where it's residing, and where it's all flowing, and the complete life cycle which I was saying earlier, that has to be protected. Data identification, classification, and then so on and so forth. We have to have the complete data monitoring in place. Same. And then a layer of protection of that infrastructure and the data.
Correct. So coming to Saurabh ji, like while modernizing the critical infrastructure, how can organization balance the innovation with the uninterrupted operation and the service continuity also?
So in terms of services like energy or power, I mean, where you cannot have any downtime, we have to work with redundancies first. So many of the networks that we plan, they generally have a n-1, especially wherever there is a critical infra or there are certain loads where you cannot have any kind of, and in case of very sensitive infrastructure such as a data center, the redundancy might go up to n-2. You might have a second spare line also. Because the cost of, especially in a process industry or any kind of places where you have a process or disaster prone, you can't risk that kind of chance that the light goes off for you in a minute because the cost is just too high. So there is of course a cost that you have to maintain a spare network or you have to, but then there is a balance of interest you have to ensure between the customer, his needs and the overall supply cost. So we already have policies in place for these strategic loads or special loads. And gradually, we are improving that with time.
Yeah.
And we also are also putting more and more behind the meter storage. So wherever, there is any kind of blip or any kind of chances, so that can also one add as an extra layer of.
Yeah. And innovation and digitization is also very much linked with the GEM if I talk about the PSUs and the government organization perspective. Because with the limited budget and the selection criteria for the L1, etc., somewhere impact the quality of the work also, but we can discuss that later also offline. Coming to you, sir, like AI and smart technologies are rapidly entering into critical infrastructure like power and all. How can we encourage innovation while ensuring trust, accountability, and responsible adoption of those latest technologies like AI and all?
In fact, it goes beyond the encouragement. It is our requirement. I think we cannot rule it out. Until unless we go for innovations and new things, we cannot survive. Because I belong to a power sector, earlier the grid was very stable 20 years back.
Correct.
But now if you see without innovations, if you can enter in the grid, it is very, very difficult. The present geopolitical situations, energy security is one of the most important factor, and for India perspective, I think electricity is the one of the if we cannot say only one, is the foremost solution. So until unless we innovate, we cannot handle the variability, RE. We cannot bring the power from Arunachal, hydel power. Okay. We cannot bring the Khavda, the remotest place, where we are bringing the solar and this wind power. So innovation is a very, very important, and we at Power Grid, we are innovating in a many way. Like we have innovated the central control center at Maneshar, Gurgaon. Where all India data is coming. We are controlling entire India's network of Power Grid around 291 substation. When I say substation, it is 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer boundary area is a substation in Power Grid perspective. So all these things only possible when we have to innovate, we have to enter the data, sovereignty, security, and many things. In that step, we have started our data center also. We are also in a data center. We innovated, we thought, and we provided 1 lakh kilometer optical fiber ground network to maintain this electrical system. And now entire our OT is totally isolated from entire world. We are running entire system without physical connection. I am talking without physical connection to external world. So that type of OT solutions we have innovated. And it is not only one-stop solution. We have to go and we innovate day and night to maintain this system. Thank you.
Correct, sure. So thanks a lot. Let me just reiterate like what we discussed and what you guys can take away from the session is like before planning to any migration or a digitization, we should think about the internal analysis of the data first, the requirement analysis in detail, what sort of technology we should plan for, whether it will be resilient or will be a cloud graded to handle the AI plus quantum near future. And then the technology which I am planning to put in place, will it be compatible with my existing infrastructure or the IT landscape or not? And then the user experience as well, like how it will impact the user experience plus the data security also. That should be by default or by design in the system also. So the overall architecture should be designed in a way that the scalability can be done, the security can be implemented later on if it is required. Because today we need AI, but if I talk about down the line, maybe 10 years, 15 years, there was no AI, nothing that. So if my asset which I have purchased 5-6 years ago, whether it is compatible to integrate with the AI-enabled platform from a operational perspective plus from a security standpoint. So if my asset which I'm planning to onboard are compatible for the future ready technology also, then I can think we can plan for the migration or a digitization also. So thanks a lot for your grateful insight and the session also. Thanks a lot participate for the attention also, and thanks a lot the team for inviting all of us.